Hey guys, good morning. Who's feeling chipper this morning after tequila sunrises? You didn't have, we like 4 people had one. Most people just had sunrises.
Sunrise.
But that's okay. You do you. That's why we have sunrises, tequila sunrises. How are you feeling that we're reaching our goal of connecting?
Great.
Good, doing good.
You feeling good? I understand Amy Dingmann needs to get this started up in her neck of the woods so we can start connecting the groups of groups. Yeah?
That's what I've heard.
I'm thinking we should go visit Haggai when he's doing one of his classes. That'd be really fun. The cool thing about connecting is you start small and it gets bigger, and it's like spokes of a tire, and they start intersecting. It's magic what can happen. This next presentation is on homesteading from Amy Dingmann, who, if you don't know who she is, then I don't know where you've been for the last 3 days, and you obviously don't listen to my podcast because she's been on my podcast a few times. She knows a lot about a lot. And that's what happens when you start homesteading is you know one thing, and then you know 2 things, and then pretty soon you're like, I know the answer to all of these things. She knows how to do stuff with nothing. She knows how to flexibly change her schedule to deal with, we'll just call them situations that come up. Situations. Yeah, so I'm going to hand it over to Amy.
All right, awesome. So if you don't know me, I'm Amy. What is it? Dinklage this weekend. Apparently, I have the podcast of Farmers Kind of Life. I've been on a cook podcast. I'm also one half of the Spicy Sisters. If you have listened to the Spicy
Nice shirt
Sisters.
today.
I know this is the same shirt apparently that the Spicy Sisters are supposed to wear for their uniforms because this is what you wore. Yeah. So we're rocking the this is good. So what else do I have? I have a YouTube channel. I've had a website for many, many, many years, and it's all about homesteading and DIY and self-reliance and some deep thoughts in there too, because you get those when you're out on the homestead doing the work. I am married to, and I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you who I'm married to. And if you need to get up and leave, understand. I am married to someone in law enforcement. He's been a sergeant with our county.
I can't listen to you anymore.
I know. Just shut
I
down
always
shop
told
now.
you I left each other because of that. I had a comment.
Well, it has
She
come
has a
up.
really pretty face.
Yes,
though.
yes.
Yeah. Particularly her mouth.
Particularly my mouth. Yeah. So my husband is a sergeant with the local county. He's been working with them for longer than we've been married, which is 22 years. And he's also the SWAT commander. So that is the other half of my life. So that's interesting. I bring that up because I had a listener who said, I just found out who you're married to and I can't listen to you anymore. And okay. We have 2 boys. They are 18 and 19. We homeschooled them all the way through. So that is another journey that we have taken. I live in Minnesota. If you couldn't tell from the accent, we have a 5-acre farm and we raise chickens and pigs and turkeys, and we've had goats, we've had pheasants, we've had horses, we've had all the things. We don't have goats or horses anymore. That will come up later in this speech. So as a homesteader, you learn a lot of things on homestead. You will learn things about homesteading. You will learn skills, but you will also learn things about yourself. So that's what this is going to be about, things that I have learned since I have been on the homestead. Maybe you have learned them as well. And I really want to focus on the things that you learn about yourself, because I think there's lots of lessons that come along. So how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hand, you can keep this to yourself. And without overthinking this question, how many of you would consider yourself to be pretty new to homesteading? You're just getting into it, or you're not quite into it yet. You're here because you want to, you're trying to figure it out. And like I said, don't overthink this, because there's always stuff to learn as a homesteader, right? Doesn't matter how long you do it. There's always stuff to learn. How many of you would say, I'm pretty experienced. I've been doing this for a while. I kind of sort of know what I'm doing. You can raise your hand. Yep. All right. So we learn things in the homesteading life. We learn things about ourselves. We learn things about how we deal with struggle. We learn how we deal with success. We learn how we deal with situations. Right. So we also deal with how people think about us choosing this lifestyle, because not everybody agrees with this lifestyle. Some people think we're total freaks. Some people think, oh my gosh, why are you getting into that? You're never going to be able to do that. So that is also something that we figure out. This is how we deal with that. But I'm going to start with a few things that I've learned about homesteading. So the first thing that I've learned, we have been on our farm for, this will be our 11th year. So that's how long I've been doing that. Officially, I guess, as with a big red barn and all the things. But the first thing I learned is that the animals that you thought that you wanted might not be the animals that you really wanted. So when I moved to the farm, all I wanted goats. Goats, that is what I want. They're going to be the coolest animals. We had moved from my parents' house. We rented my parents' house for a while, and we were able to have chickens there, but that's all we could have. And so we're going to have property. We're going to have a big red barn, all this land, right? I'm getting goats. We had goats for 3 years. We have been on the homestead for 11. So you can figure out we don't have goats anymore. I wanted to have goats. I was going to do all the things. I found out I don't like goats. I don't actually like goats. I don't actually like horses. But you know what? I thought I wasn't going to like pigs. I love pigs. I think pigs are the coolest thing to the coolest thing to raise. I didn't think I was going to like turkeys. I love turkeys. I love raising turkeys. So it's fun to research and figure out, this is what I think that, might work on my farm, might work on my homestead, might work on my property. But you may get there and realize we're gonna change it up. It's good to try new things. I am surprised the things that I thought I would like, I didn't like, and the things I didn't think would work at our farm ended up working. So has anybody experienced that on their farm a little bit? Like, yeah. Another thing that I thought was interesting is we moved to the farm, and homesteading and the whole farm girl thing, that is my identity. I am Amy from A Farmer's Kind of Life. I am a homesteader. I am a farmer's kind of girl. The 3 men in my family, because I can say men now because they're all adults, they love the country. They live living out away from things, but homesteading and doing the farm thing is not their identity. It's just where they live. And that's okay. I had to learn, you know what? It's okay if they're not like, super excited. I'm gonna plant this thing. It's gonna be wonderful. I'm gonna love it and take care of it. That's cool, Amy. That's awesome, Mom. They support me, but they're not gung-ho excited about that. And that's okay. Not everybody has to be gung-ho excited about what you're doing. I had to learn that. Number 3, you will not talk about everything that happens on your homestead. And I'm saying that as a content creator. I'm saying that as someone who podcasts, as someone who makes YouTube videos, as someone who, writes about all the things. There are things you will not talk about that happen. Part of that is because you're like, ooh, that was a mistake. And I don't want people to know that I did that. Some of the things are things you realize, maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Some of the things, you don't talk about them because the only way you're going to understand it is if you are also a homesteader. So there will be disasters that happen on the farm. And I am all about being honest and being real about homesteading. But there are some things. One of these things, we always have stray cats show up at our farm. Always. We live in the middle of nowhere. Farms are the best place to drop a cat, right? That you don't want to.
You're live on the internet in case that matters.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Because I brought this up eventually. But
Yeah.
What? I'm live? Oh, gosh. So cats will always show up. So we have a ton of cats. And you know what happens in the spring? There's kittens. And there's lots of kittens. And everybody will say, why don't you get these cats fixed? Right? Why don't you get them spayed, neutered? And we do that as we can. But where I live, spaying and neutering cats is very expensive. It's about $300 a cat.
Wow.
So when you have lots and lots of, cats that show up, you can only do that with so many cats. But if you don't do it all, you have population explosion, right? So people are always asking, why don't you do that? Well, what I found out is it's not that expensive to spay or neuter cats elsewhere, right? They're like, what? It costs $300 to do that to a cat? So I have learned, except for on this live, apparently, I don't always talk about how many cats are on the farm. I don't always talk about the baby kittens. I don't always talk about the thing that showed up. Because depending on where you live, depending on, I don't know what it is in Tennessee. What is it to fix a cat in Tennessee? Not $300?
Not $300. You can do it probably for $20 if you shop around and wait. We used to have free vouchers. I have spayed every cat I've seen that comes by, and we don't have a population problem.
Right.
I mean, I have 4 cats, which is too many, but
No.
4. 4.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So it's a lot less. Or you can learn to do it yourself. Maybe I should probably can't talk about that though, can you? I suppose you get lots of comments about that as well.
You can do pigs yourself, and people will advise you to use bands, and they don't know anything about pigs when they tell you to do that. Yeah.
This is true. True. Kind of along that topic, a fourth thing that I have learned after being on the homestead is that death will become normal if you are on a homestead and you have animals, death will become normal. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't bother you. It means it will become your normal. It will become common. And that is even if you are not someone who is processing your own, butchering your own animals, even if you are someone who says, I'm going to send all my chickens away, I'm going to send my pigs away, they're going to come back in the nice little packages, you know, you're not involved in that, you will have animals who get sick. You will have animals who get hurt. This is something you will have to deal with. And so it's what was very interesting to me is being on the homestead. I was a hunter before I got the homestead, right? So I like understand that whole thing, but being on the homestead, having your own animals and that whole thing, you don't know how that's going to affect you until you actually do it. Even if you're a hunter, even if you're like, oh, whatever. That was very interesting to me. And even the difference between here is an animal that I'm raising for meat, and I know what's going to happen. Okay, that's what we're doing. I remember the first time I had to cull an animal. It was a chicken, and she was sick, and I knew there was no way to fix what was wrong with her. And my husband wasn't home because I would always pass that off. Like, here, husband, I have a job for you. You have to go out and do the thing. And I had to cull this bird myself. And I did it. And I sat down and sobbed, just sobbed, because I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't expect that. I didn't think that was going to be a thing for me because I'm pretty tough. So you won't know how you deal with the fact that death becomes your normal, that you have to deal with it so often until it happens. Number 5, you are not Ma Ingalls. How many of you grew up with a little house on Prairie Stories? You are not Ma Ingalls. You are not Laura Ingalls. And it is not 1800 whatever. I say this because it is okay to use technology. It is okay to still do all the modern wonderful things. You can have one foot in the simple prepping, this, whatever you want to call this, and you can still participate over here. I bring that up because I have some people in the community who want to do everything the old-fashioned way. I want to do the simple way. I want to pretend that I'm living way back in the time. It's pretty hard to do it without internet. That's how I have learned everything that I've done. I did not grow up like this. YouTube University is a real thing, and it is amazing, and it is how I've learned so many things. It is okay to use it. It is okay. It is okay if you go to the store and buy ketchup. You don't have to always make your own. That's okay. That probably isn't a thing I got to tell people here, but I just thought I'd bring it up. Number 6, do not overcomplicate things. Do not make things harder than they need to be. Now, I know I just said that you're not Ma Ingalls, okay? But the flip side of that whole thing is that Ma Ingalls, she did with what she had. But I believe there's this thing that in the world of content creators, we always have to have content, right? We always have to have something to talk about. If we're going to talk about homesteading, we have to talk about all of the things, right? So we might write lots and lots of articles about chickens, about every disease known to chickens and all the problems that can happen with the chickens and all the things you should do with chickens, because we need to create content. The problem is there's so much content out there that it's making it seem really complicated to get chickens because there's so much stuff out there to read and research about chickens. Ma Ingalls did not research chickens. So I don't want you to be Ma Ingalls all the time. Like, I want you to be okay with using the internet, but I want you to understand Ma Ingalls just did with what she had. I'm going to get chickens. I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to research it to death. I'm not going to worry about every single disease that ever happened. If something was wrong, hop on the internet, hop on YouTube University and figure it out. But don't let that be a barrier. Not knowing all the things and researching and here's what could go wrong. Don't let that be a barrier to moving on in your homesteading journey. Number 7, there are many, many valid ways to do things. There are a lot of different ways to do things on the homestead. Obviously, it costs less to spay and neuter a cat in Tennessee, right? It's very expensive where I live in Minnesota. Depending on where you live, depending on the property you have, depending on how much time you have available, depending on how big your family is, depending on how much help you have, it depends on so much stuff. What you're going to be able to do, what's going to work for you. So I think as you get into it, you realize I can take advice from a lot of different people and I'm going to pick what works for me. Understand that that's okay. That's absolutely okay to do. Just because someone in this Facebook group or this MeWe group says this is the way to do it, That's not necessarily the way that it'll work for you, and that's okay. I had to learn that the hard way. So it's good. You might try it. It might not work. It might work. You don't know till you try. At the very least, if you are going to research something, I'm going to call out Erin here. Erin told me, or you said in a podcast probably, that she researched homeschooling. When they decided they were going to homeschool, she researched homeschooling to death. When she started actually homeschooling, how much did that research help you?
None.
None. So you can over-research. You're going to learn the most once you start. And if it's not working, do something different. It's okay. That's a great thing about community and being able to talk to people. I can't tell you the people I've talked to here. I'm like, why am I doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing in Minnesota? Because I just figured out I can do it this totally different way that I learned in a tiny little conversation with someone. That's what's great about this community, learning from everybody. I gotta check my time now.
You're good.
Okay. Number 8, every year is different. Those of you who have Homestead, how many of you have planted the same thing every year and it's worked out exactly the same every single year? Really? You are magical. Tell me how you do that. So the first year that we were at our homestead, we planted sweet corn because we had the space to do that. And I was like, this is so cool because we had like the largest sweet corn. It just amazing. We were like, we rock at sweet corn. This is going to be our thing, right? We have never been able to grow sweet corn ever since that first year. What? Like, that's crazy. There have been years where we have grown amazing tomatoes. There have been years where I'm like, where are the tomatoes? What is happening? We have years where we have had so many cucumbers, I don't even know what to do with them. And then years we can't get them to grow. We have years where the chickens are doing great. We have years where the rats come in and, yeah, is it a rat?
It's the year of the rat.
It's a thing. Yeah.
Also in the Chinese.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's
So there you go. So every year is different. So in one way, it's like, don't get too cocky about what you're doing. Like, oh, I'm so awesome, I can do this. Because next year you might not be able to. But also, don't let that be a deterrent. If one year it doesn't work, it might be the year. So don't get too discouraged, I guess, if it doesn't work out. And it's funny because I think that's part of the reason that people feel they need to research everything so they can be prepared for everything, right? Because every year is different. But there's that whole analysis paralysis thing that we talk about sometimes about if you research too much. Number 9, it is a never-ending project, right? How many of you are going to go home from here with all the ideas, right? You thought you had everything figured out, maybe. You're like, I know what I'm doing, and you come here and you're like, oh my gosh, she's laughing. She's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I texted my husband my husband texted me last night, and he said, are you learning all the things? And I said, yep. And he said, let me guess, you're coming home with all the ideas. And I said, I am. So he is prepared for me to come home and be like, whoa, this is what we're doing. So it's a never-ending project. There's always something to do. There's always something to change. There's always something to fix, repair. It is not a lifestyle to get into if you're not a doer. I don't know why you would pick anything like this if you're not all right, let's do this. Number 10, you can change what you're doing. You have a plan and you think this is what we're doing. We're going to have goats and it's going to be great. We're going to have all the goat milk. We're going to make goat milk soap. It's going to be great. I don't have goats anymore. That's how that worked out. You can change what you're doing. And I have learned, don't say never. You should never say never. I'm never getting ducks again because the first time we had ducks was a horrible setup. If you have a really good setup for ducks, they're pretty amazing. We have ducks now because we have a different setup. You can change what you're doing. Change it so it works. I am at a point right now, we've been on our farm, this is the 11th year, and I'm at the point now where I'm just trying to do things more efficiently. Like before, it was just like, we're going to do all the meat, and it's going to be great. And what I really love is coming here and hearing from people who have way less property than I do. I mean, some of you are on a 1/4 acre, you're on a 1/2 acre, and you are just killing it, right? You're doing all the things. I have 5 acres, and I'm like, wow, I got a lot of empty space that I come here and I'm like, oh, like my mind is just, just going. So you can change what you're doing. Number 11, it is hard to video or write about or podcast about every single thing that happens on the farm. And we were talking about this. I was like, where are you? You're behind the post. We were talking about, you're so into, let's say I'm going to butcher a chicken. Everybody wants a video on how to butcher chicken. In order for me to make a video about how to butcher a chicken, there has to be someone to video that, because I am butchering the chicken, right? Like my hands are dirty, and on butcher day, we just want to get it done. The last thing I want to do is set up a camera and say, make this all beautiful so we can butcher the chicken. We're not doing that. So there is, even skills that you want to teach people. You have to think, do I want to video this? It's like an extra step, and you don't always want to do that. Okay, it's like 17. I didn't want to scare anyone off, And it's a lot of work. And so I went into this thinking, oh, this will be so awesome because I can make all this content, with all the stuff we're doing on the farm. And you can't always do that because you're doing all the things on the farm. So it's hard to wrap your head around. Number 12, you'll screw up. How many people here have screwed up? Excellent. I am in good company. I am in good company, I guess. I've had animals die because of me, because of things I've done, because of things I haven't done. I've lost animals. There have been the things, and you guys understand that, but you figure out how you're going to deal with failure, because you will. I shouldn't say failure, because you're going to learn from it, obviously, but you figure out how you process that and how you go through it. Yeah, all the screw ups. We'll just call them screw ups. Situations. It's situations. That's what it is. What was that? Setbacks. But look, learning opportunities. There are many of them. Number 14. I think I have 20 of these. So are we still good?
You're good.
Okay.
You got plenty.
13 is what I'm on. It costs money. It costs money. And that can be a tricky thing to talk about in the homesteading community, because people will say it's so expensive, but is it more expensive to raise your own food? But it does cost money. You have to get the infrastructure in there somehow. You have to get the animals. It's going to cost you money, and you figure out where exactly your money is going and where your priorities are. And I'm trying to think of a good example of this.
My chickens cost me $12 a chicken. Okay.
Okay.
Because I do feed them feed.
Yep.
And that's not including my labor.
Right.
And you can buy, maybe not now, but you could buy chickens for cheaper at the grocery store than $12 a chicken.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I think that's another one of the things that people forget. It's your time and your labor, which is worth, we have, our time is worth stuff, right? Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're learning these things this weekend, aren't we? Number 14, it is more everything than you think it will be. It is harder. It is more work. It is more money. It is more time. But it is also more awesome, more everything, more, I can't even think of the word. Rewarding. Thank you. Rewarding. It is more rewarding in ways that you probably don't even know going into it. It's more everything. Number 15. There are both, plug your ears, kids, assholes and nice people in homesteading. I have met a lot of people who think, oh, homesteading community, we're all going to be this wonderful commune. Wonderful people. It's going to be great. Not always true. There are wonderful, awesome people in the homesteading community, right? There are also jerks. There are also people I don't want to deal with. That's great. You want to raise chickens. I don't want to hang out with you because you're a jerk. So has anybody dealt with that? Yeah. Yep. Number 16. You need to figure out what to do where you are. I hear a lot of people say, and I get this question up in Minnesota, because I'm from Minnesota. Where's the best place to move to in Minnesota that has the best homesteading community, where they're just doing all the things? There's this great, wonderful commune of people who are doing all the homesteading things and getting along, and it's going to be great. Sometimes you have to build that where you are, because if everybody moves to the perfect homesteading community, it's not going to be a perfect homesteading community. Everybody's bringing their stuff with them. Some people are jerks, and so I encourage people, figure out what it is that you want and try to figure out how to do that where you are. Or like we talked about, be happy where you are. Figure it out where you are. Moving, and if you're not happy where you are, moving to the perfect homesteading community is not going to make you happy. So you have to figure that out for yourself where you are.
I hear there's a book you can buy and read that's all about that.
Is there?
Yeah, Ken Johnson, I think, still didn't trade it last night on the barter blanket.
What the heck? What the heck? Hunt him down. Number 17. When you say, I'm going to be a homesteader. How many of you who are homesteading, or whatever you want to call it, when you announce that to people, when you announce that to your family or whoever, the people around you are like, oh, it's going to be awesome. I totally support you. I'm super excited for you. Really? How many of you were like, I'm going to be a homesteader, it's going to be awesome. And they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? What do you think you're doing? Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing. It is, how many of you heard you won't be able to do it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It is, here is what I have figured out. It is nobody's job to believe you. It is your job to prove you can do it. When we say, I want to be a homesteader, I want to do this thing, we expect people to be like, woohoo, Austin, you can do it. And they, whatever, they can be supportive or not supportive, but it's not their job to be like, oh, you. It's your job to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then do it. Because the proof is in what you're doing, right? Because there's a lot of people that say, I'm going to move to the country and I'm going to do this thing. And they don't. It's all talk, right? So show people what you're doing by what you're doing. Put your money where your mouth is, I believe. Your pretty mouth, right? I had to work that in there. Some people have so much wrapped up in being a homesteader, right? They want to prove to their mom they can do it. They want to prove to their dad they can do it. They want to prove to their college roommates they can do it. Prove to yourself you can do it. It's not your job to prove it to other people. And I would say, generally speaking, that's the wrong reason to do something, is to prove it to other people. You need to prove it to yourself. Yes. So you will learn things about yourself when you struggle. Have you guys learned things about yourself through struggle? When people don't agree with your lifestyle, what do you do? Does that hold you back? Oh, he's shaking his head. He's like, no, this is good.
Not anymore.
That's what I was going to say. Because in the beginning, I was like, oh, you've got to get past that. Don't let it hold you back. Don't let that hold you back. Is it really that big of a deal if somebody doesn't agree with what you're doing? If somebody thinks, oh, you're going to get a bunch of chickens, whatever, they're all going to die. You're not going to be able to butcher them. You're going to cry when they die. All of that. Doesn't matter what they think. It really doesn't. But we need to remind each other that, because I hear a lot of chatter in some of the communities of, my mom doesn't think that I can do this. And it's good to support each other. It's good to work through those things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I have two things I want to end with. And then if you have any questions, I'll answer them. I have a special note for content creators. Who here would consider themselves a content creator? You have a YouTube channel, you have a blog, you have a website, you have a podcast, you are putting out information. I would give you a special warning, maybe. Be very careful turning your entire lifestyle into the thing that pays your bills, or the thing that you are putting out there. You have to save something for just you. And it's hard because you want to put the information out there. You're like, I know how to do the thing. I've got the information. I want to teach you. But you have to find that balance between, here's all the stuff that I'm telling you, and here's the stuff I'm just keeping for myself. You do not have to publish everything. You do not have to tell everybody everything. It's okay to have a little bit left for you. And number 19, I guess I only had 19.
Make one up real quick.
We have to have 20.
I have to have 20.
That'd be the part you're keeping for you, right?
There you go. Thank you. Number 20 is for me. So back to the people who raised their hand when you said who thinks they're new to homesteading. So who would say they're new, they're learning, they're just figuring it out. And we always are learning, but newish. Here's what's really great about people who are new. And I want to point this out. People who are new and excited about homesteading are the people who are bringing the zest and the fire and the excitement to the community. Because when you've been doing it a while, you have like the wisdom and you have the experience, but you tend to lose a little bit of your zest. Anybody who's long-term agree with that?
Yeah.
A little bit of your zest? So people who will come to these workshops or conferences, homesteading conferences, there's a lot of people who are really new or who are just getting into it and they're like, I don't think I should be here. Like, what do I have to offer the community? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning. I've only been doing this for a year. Like, I just feel really new and I don't think I'm bringing anything to the community. The thing that you are bringing is what the people who have been doing it a long time are lacking. The zest, the fire, the excitement, all of that. So don't let that hold you back from jumping in and being part of the community, because you are definitely needed.
They also bring the ideas that we're not thinking of anymore because we have our system.
Because we have the way we do it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody has their place in the community. Somebody talked about that, the underground community. Everybody has their place. They're all needed. So that's pretty much what I have. But if you have any questions, I will take questions. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Amy, what are you excited about on the homestead this year?
What am I excited about?
You talked about you're doing a lot of efficiency. Is there anything new coming up that you're excited about?
So here's the super funny thing, okay? I made a YouTube video talking about, we're going to be all about like trying to figure out how to grow more food, because we've always been about the meat, right? Now I'm like, we're going to try to figure out how to use the land differently for food, for actual things we're planting. So I told my husband, so I'm going to this thing, and I said, we're going to eat rabbit while we're there, right? And he's like, are you going to watch, like, how to process a rabbit? And I said, yeah, actually I am. And he's like, so are you getting rabbits? All right, so anybody who listens to my podcast knows, and I don't remember where I said it, my husband had said, we're going to work on one project a year, Amy, and the project this year is hydroponics. We're not doing rabbits till next year. Before I left to this, he's like, we've got that empty stall in the barn. And what we could do is we could tear this thing out and then we could put some hutches in there. We could have rabbits. And as I'm walking out the door to come, I'm like, now we're getting rabbits? Like what? So it might be rabbits. I'm very excited. So
There's some for sale here.
I know, but that's like 17 hours back home.
We have boxes.
Such an enabler.
Was it Leo's that took those loud home all the way to New
Yeah.
Hampshire?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. Leo's drove pigs home all the way to New Hampshire one year from here, I think. AGH's.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So
And his Prius. They were babies.
I am not taking, no.
Amy, if you take bunnies home on our drive, I will take a bunny home on our drive.
I don't have any hutches though. Should I text my husband right now and be like, so?
Yeah. You've got one day to make
One day.
Wait, Amy?
Yeah.
Don't you go up 24?
I don't know what way we go. I have no idea.
Alan has
I will
hutches.
give you a bank of hutches.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Sitting in the
Do
back
it.
of the shed.
Underground network. Do it.
That energy and that zest. Peer pressure live on the internet, you guys.
Amy, and we'll give you the recipes too. That we
Oh,
like.
jeez. Was this question a setup?
No, but it sounds like a perfect opportunity for forgiveness instead of permission.
All my friends force feed.
I had you, honey.
Video
Give me a
evidence.
hutch.
You said you wanted it. You told me before I left.
No, so there's lots of things. We did start our hydroponics this year, so that was fun. And we'd like to do aquaponics, and so we've been trying to figure out how to do that in a cold climate, like just drain it. Yeah, and
I
you're like,
drain-
just drain it.
I drain my 2 wicking beds.
Yeah.
And then the water moving keeps it from freezing in the ebb and flow bed down to about 8 degrees.
Yeah.
And then below that, I'll drain that, and I have a stock tank heater in the sump.
I was wondering.
So we don't get as cold as used.
Yeah.
But also, the more underground you are with that sump, the better.
Sure.
And you can it's fish in the winter underground.
See, we're getting all the ideas here. Y'all gonna give
I'll
me
use
trouble.
a backhoe to make it easier, so you don't have to hand dig the hillside
Oh, that would be
garden and run
perfect.
into rocks. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
I do. Could you briefly describe your turkey operation setup? Are they free range?
They are not free range. We used to free range. We don't anymore. We just have a really, I don't even know what the measurement is. It's probably as big as this building, maybe a little smaller. And half of it is for our pigs, and then they can get out in the pasture. And the other half is meat birds when we have them, and turkeys. And they're just in there. And we intend to cut, you all are going to hear my to-do list now. So we intend to cut a hole in that side of the barn and give them a space to get out. We'd have to cover it because we have hawks, eagles. We have that's all the predators that we have up there. They're coming from the sky. So
Turkeys find very creatively. Yeah, they're good
Yeah.
at killing themselves.
yeah,
Do they
they're-
nest
Amy, are we
or
gonna-
roost on bars like chickens, or just plop down on the ground, or what? What are yours?
I haven't had them long enough to even know that. I mean, because we only get the meat birds or the meat turkeys. So I would love to do heritage, but
Amy,
We
do
haven't
you get a GSD weekend from the crew to come up to
I
Minnesota?
don't know.
And build rabbit
I'll bring this guy
hutches.
to beer.
Oh my gosh.
I'll bring Casey's pizza.
It sounds like it's planned. This is amazing, you guys.
I have
Love
a
it.
question from the internet.
Yeah.
Bobby Joe wants to know if you ever get to the Twin Cities area because she's a fan of what you're doing, and she totally wants to probably meet you at some point.
She totally wants to hang out.
Yeah,
Depends where it is.
Twin Cities.
I know, but
Oh.
Twin Cities is very large.
Yeah.
Like,
Are-
is that like Twin Cities
How
proper?
far are you from Twin Cities?
90 minutes.
Are you doing any events at your place?
I don't know, you guys.
What was that adapter become change?
It's fine. It's fine. It would be great to get something started up in our neck of the woods. And so
Don't
we-
over research it, just do it.
y'all are throwing my words back at me. I love it. No, I believe it will happen.
St. Paul, she says.
St. Paul. Okay, so she was like actual Twin Cities. Yeah, I'm about 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
90 minutes. 90 minutes, Baba Joe. Yeah. Anything else?
Other
Okay.
questions?
Yep.
Okay, so, you have people you love, we all do, and they think you're crazy homesteading, but yet, they'll make comments like something happens
Yeah.
with the world, I'm coming to your
I'm
place.
coming to your
So
house.
how do you deal, I mean, I try to talk them through, okay, well, this is why you need to do it. So.
Go and take it.
How do you deal with people like that in your life?
I laugh. I'm coming to your house, Yar. I bet not. I try to use that as an opportunity to be like, well, here's what you could do. You know, you don't want to have to come to my place. You know, you can start storing this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, it's hard because there are a lot of people that just think that, well, you can just do all the prepping and all the whatever, and we'll just all show. That'll be interesting if that
Plan
happens.
for food for
You
my
know.
family, not all of you.
Right.
Bingo.
So what are you bringing with you?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Can we start taking their money? Like,
Reserve
You
the
have to
place.
be in my subscription program
There you go.
now for
There
at
you
least
go.
5 years.
Yes,
SHTF.
$100 a month.
that's perfect. There you go. Yeah.
You can save the rice and beans for them while you're sitting there eating
There you
your
go.
own turkey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then for me, there's some people, when they say it, and his wife is the nurse practitioner that we go to, and we go, absolutely.
If
I've
people
got
can bring
space set
skills,
aside for
that's,
you.
yeah, absolutely. Like, what are you
Make
gonna
sure
bring
you
to
come here
the,
early so that we can get you in and,
Yeah.
get you set up.
Right.
Because
Yes.
there are some people that you're not doing it by yourself. I don't care, well, there's probably some farmstead that could do it by themselves, but very, 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 very few.
yes.
Not likely.
Yeah, so I agree. So if they're gonna bring skills, they're gonna bring something to the table, then that's great, but it's an opportunity for them to think about that, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna bring? Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Amy.
All right, thank you guys.
So I think we're officially supposed to be back at 11:30 with John Willis. We might do 11:15 though. Let's do 11:15 and I'll tell them to announce it down there.
It is.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
Yeah.